For all those of you that think that IVF is a sin or haram, I'm going to prove to you why God says it's okay. We know that God wants us to have children. Virtually every religion tells us that. In the Bible, Psalm 127 verse 3, God says he bestows children upon us as a gift. And in the Surah Al-Shura 42, lines 49 to 50, God again says he bestows children as a blessing upon us. So we know that God wants us to have children. It's considered a blessing. It's a positive thing. We're supposed to have kids. Every single religion says that. And we're supposed to have them so we can have them worship God. So this is critical. We also believe, if you're religious like I am, that God created everything in the world. And if he did, he also created IVF. So it's a tool he has given us to help people have children. Now, some of you may be saying, wait a minute, we're freezing all these babies, they all have souls, and they're stuck in a freezer for a very long time, like this person. She clearly feels that there's lots of wastage of embryos and that all of these embryos are being basically not used and stuck for eternity in a freezer with their tiny little souls stuck there, not able to develop. Well, I'm going to talk to you about 3 very simple ways to do religiously sensitive IVF so that you're not breaking any rules, morals, values, and you're staying straight with the big guy. Number 1, you can do natural cycle IVF. Not everybody needs to take tons of medication, make hundreds of eggs, and then go for this giant egg retrieval and make 30 frozen babies. We can just get the natural egg you routinely produce, mix it with sperm, create an embryo, and then take that embryo and put it right back inside the uterus. This is really not that different from doing insemination, and there is no religion I am aware of that has any arguments against doing intrauterine insemination. We're basically bringing the sperm and the egg together. We're allowing them a chance to fertilize naturally. You don't even have to do ICSI if you don't want to. And then we're taking that embryo and we're getting it inside the uterus. Are we facilitating the placement of the embryo? Sure, but I don't think God wants you to suffer for eternity because you got blocked tubes because you had surgery as a baby from something like necrotizing enterocolitis, which you are totally faultless from. So this is a very simple technique to get an embryo to its home where God probably wants it to become a human being, which can subsequently end up worshiping God. Number 2, you can do IVF where we're stimulating you to make eggs, but maybe we don't have to go max dose stim. You just need to make 2 or 3 eggs. And remember, depending on your age, some of those eggs are going to turn into embryos that are not genetically normal. And therefore you need a few in order to achieve even 1 pregnancy. If you end up with, let's say, 3, 4 eggs, we can turn those into embryos. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to have 3 or 4 kids. That's a pretty reasonable outcome, and no one's arguing about having 3 or 4 kids, and there's certainly no religion anywhere that says you should limit the number of children that you have. In fact, most religions kind of promote having lots of children. The final thing you can do is make all the eggs that you want, but just don't turn them into embryos. There is no prohibition against getting your eggs and saving your eggs and freezing eggs because they're not a person yet. It's just an egg. You have to have the unification of the sperm and the egg to create that spark of life that some people believe, including myself, includes the creation and attachment of a soul. But if you only freeze the eggs and only use a few of those eggs to create embryos, you're back to the previous situation where you're only going to have a couple of embryos to use, and you can just save those eggs and either use them or discard them later on, just like any cell in your body that you shed on a routine basis because it is not a whole person. So for those of you that think that you cannot do IVF because it is a sin or haram, the reality is God wants us to have children. He's given us the tools to do it, and doing it through IVF using any one of those 3 methods I mentioned does not necessarily mean you're going to end up down there.